It's showtime! That didn't come out as good as I thought it would. That's from...
I don't know, but I thought, okay, great. We're starting to get some sort of an opening, some sort of an introduction. You know?
I need to do what you do on your Friday streams, your little
that little monologue. Nanette says to me, she's like, what is it with you and the bad jokes? I'm like, it's my shtick. I don't know what to tell you.
Jokes. Well, that's okay, because I'm going to have a little presentation in the middle of the stream. It's a short one, but about how I would fix the whole controversial Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs issue. I have a plan to fix this whole mess.
Not remake cartoons into live action films? That would be a great way to start.
Okay, what's done is done. I'm trying to help Disney here, and I will be bringing that on in a little bit.
Well, I can't blame you for that, because I think we're all hoping that Disney turns itself around in its own way.
So let's say, what am I doing, though?
Hello? I don't know. It's your show. I don't mean to.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I am your host, Agent Boomer. My co-host, PaPa Pacelli, who's
how you doing?
Snacking on delicious brownies right now.
No, I'm finished because
okay.
I was having trouble in the back room there because Netter heated them up for me and they were too hot. I'm done kind of talking like this, and I'm like, don't worry, I'll be okay by the time we go live.
Oh my goodness! And what you sipping on?
Hey, A&W sugar-free root beer.
Maybe I'll snag one of those. But right now I got an Arnold Palmer on me.
That's good too.
Made it myself. I have to tell you, I'm in the grocery store. I got to get the store.
What are you doing in the grocery store? You're supposed to be broadcasting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Earlier today, all the lemonade's gone except for like the store brand. Like the shelves are getting bare.
No, don't tell me that. That's not true. That's just right-wing propaganda.
You want some Cool Ranch Doritos? Not in this year. Not this
I don't want any Doritos anymore. I don't give a crap about those.
No, but all the snack shelves, they're gone.
Yep.
Not that you should be eating that stuff anyway, but I don't know. I got myself some popcorn chips. Have you had those?
Are those they're like formed popcorn, like popped chips, so to speak?
Chips. Yeah, they're not bad. They were on sale, but like nothing's there. It's like everything is disappearing. Like the Golden's mustard, I think I got the last one of those. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Let's go, Brandon. Yep.
Should be interesting to see how things go in the fall, but that's a long ways away, and we're here.
We'll just focus on the entertainment industry here tonight.
Oh yeah, we got some stuff to talk about, but let's say hi to the chat. Joshua V, hello. Are you guys going to talk about the new Ice Age movie, The Adventures of Buck Wild?
I hadn't even heard about it, so I guess no. I guess we'll have to make that something for next week if we can find some info about it. But,
I don't know much about Ice Age, but if there's a
Buck
story...
Buck Wild? It sounds like a porn name.
I don't know. I'm not familiar. Netter's Network, welcome. Big Al, Evangeline Lilly gives hope that some in entertainment industry aren't hopeless causes. We're going to talk a little bit about this.
Yep.
We got celebrities.
Well, he saw the thumbnail. That's why he brings it up.
And it's interesting how some, I think, are getting fed up with the insanity. I think this is coming out. Even people that would consider themselves leftists, they're just saying, you guys are taking it too far. You're becoming insufferable. Horizon Talker, welcome. Auditor Dread, welcome. Joshua V, I already talked about him. Hold on. Let's keep going down this list. Zootopia.
Yep. Mark Melnikoff. I was just talking to him on the phone a little while ago.
Oh, okay. So you know who that is.
Absolutely I do.
Well, welcome to the chat. Definitely. Welcome.
I promised him that a couple of the topics that we were talking about on the phone, I said, it's funny because I'm going to be talking about that on stream in just a little while.
Yeah. I'm at 100 subscribers now.
All right.
Yay.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you enjoy what you're hearing.
There you go. I get 101 tonight.
Be sure to hit the down vote if you don't like what you hear.
Yeah. Am I even going to see that?
You can see it, and no one else can.
I don't want to see it.
Well, then don't look. You have to go into your studio in order to find it.
Joshua V. Blue Sky Studios shut down last year, and they're not involved in the new Ice Age movie, and recently Disney lost the rights to the Ice Age character Scrat. You're gonna have a Scratless Ice Age movie.
Interesting. I had heard the thing about the blue sky. I didn't know the rest of that. Yeah, let me do a little research on it. Maybe we'll talk about it next week.
Oh, that'll be funny. A Scrat series coming to HBO Max. Well,
was that what that meme was that you shared with me today on MeWe? Was that supposed to be a live action Scrat?
You know, that's a good point. I don't know. I just picked up cold, and I'm like, yeah, that's how I'm feeling now.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh gosh, is that a live action Scrat? And if it is, cool.
He's got 101. Mark just subscribed.
Mark just subscribed, so you're at 101 subscribers.
Thank you, Mark, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Joshua V, welcome. And we do have a Ghostbusters story to talk about tonight, and I will be clipping that one at the earliest convenience because
I am excited about that.
Ghostbusters does good. I'm going to tell you, anyone listening here, I'm going to give you a tip, and I probably shouldn't be, but Ghostbusters videos, they're hot. People like hearing about Ghostbusters, so I don't want to do it all the time because it's going to seem like I'm just trying to get clicks. Maybe that's what I should be doing, but anyway.
Well, look, I mean, especially since most of your videos are clips from these live streams, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking the stuff that you know is going to get circulation and recirculating it.
The Eminem one is slowly climbing. The one I did this week, our conversation about the Eminem last week, which was I had to get it down to under 15 though, because I'm still a small timer here on YouTube. But you know, I got the gist of our conversation, and it's steadily climbing. I think it got past 30, so that wasn't terrible.
Well, remember, you can clip stuff in the middle, you know, the ums and the, you know.
Oh, I do a lot of that.
Censor me once in a while. You can do that too.
I've done that too. I've censored myself. I've censored myself too. Like I said, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or actually, what I do is sometimes I veer the conversation off where it shouldn't go, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Stay on top."
Yeah, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Yeah.
Well, how do we normally start off these streams?
We usually start out with a good old days segment,
and we have a good old days segment to talk about tonight. Of course, it's because of some sad news at the beginning.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bittersweet, isn't it?
Talk about Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
Our man, Charlie Brown.
You grew up with Charlie Brown.
I absolutely
Brown.
did.
I think we both did.
I think everybody did. You know. And, I mean, if you were born any time from the 60s on, you grew up with Charlie Brown. You know, that's where those holiday specials started. That's where, you know, I mean, because let's face it, I mean, Charlie Brown really goes back to what, the 50s with the cartoon strips and whatnot. It's
interesting. You know, the public library that I may or may not work at. Anyway, they have a Charlie Brown book. Mm-hmm. They have the old Charlie Brown books there, and they have like the 1950s and 1960s. You could read the comics.
All those newspaper strips, yeah.
And it's so bizarre because, like, when Charlie Brown starts out, it's like a completely different set of characters. I'm not even sure if Snoopy was in there. Maybe he was, but like his friends were different. And one of the earliest strips I read is kind of funny because, like, he goes, it's some other girl, not the usual girl. He goes over to her house and says, like, hey, I don't know what her name was. Like, hey, is Marjorie home? Marjorie can't come out right now. And this is Marjorie yelling out the window. Well, I wish I'd known that for walking away over here. And I'm like, well, wait, you know, like he went over to her house.
Yeah.
Or Marjorie's not here. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen some videos and read some papers about just, you know, we've seen it in comics. We've seen it in, you know, our favorite TV shows and stuff. Things that change over time. Something that was established kind of gets retconned out or forgotten or whatever. And that's kind of happened with Charlie Brown, too, where characters' names have changed or their character changed over time or something like that. Or someone that was introduced some time ago just was never mentioned again and just never seen again. And people go, nope, never heard of that character, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think everyone has a different but similar kind of memory of Charlie Brown, he's kind of the hard luck case, right? He embodied all of the neuroses and struggles of growing up and insecurities that literally every single one of us had. Now, he almost took them to the extreme, but since you could relate to him so well, you really did kind of root for him. He was kind of the underdog you love to root for, right? And he was surrounded by a bit of a rogues gallery of kids, that were either a little bit antagonistic to him or, a little bit trying to prop him up, good friends like Linus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And of course he has his faithful companion Snoopy, who actually was really more the audience insert in a lot of ways. I think we were really seeing Charlie Brown through Snoopy's eyes. At least that's the way I always interpreted it.
Well, Snoopy was a big draw of the show because I always felt that he was, if dogs could emote like people, that's how they would be. They would be like Snoopy. That's how I always kind of took that. Like if they had, human expressions, because he still acted like a dog, even though he would do silly things like, make an ice cream sundae or do things. But he still had like a dog's personality, which is what I always loved about Snoopy. Yeah,
exactly. And, Charlie Brown was like, he was part of your holidays. I mean, for our generation, you can't think about Halloween without thinking about the Great Pumpkin. You can't think about Christmas without thinking about how commercial it's gotten and that silly little tree, and Linus's speech about the real meaning of Christmas. I mean, that's pretty much the holidays for us, right? Thanksgiving, over the river and through the woods and all that kind of stuff. Popcorn and jujubes or whatever for Thanksgiving dinner, and lots of toast, right? But there was a lot of others too. There was Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. Believe it or not,
that was my childhood. Race for Your Life.
That one, believe it or not, we had a class field trip to go see that. We all, as a class, we went to a movie theater. Got a thing of popcorn, watched the movie, came back to school, and went home. That was the day for us. And I'm not sure in what way that was educational, but it was a wonderful, wonderful memory from grade school for me.
I remember Race for... I didn't see it in theaters, unfortunately. I would have been too young because I think I was born the year it came out. But I caught it on cable. It was one of those early Showtime movies. And, of course, you're a kid in the 80s. There wasn't a ton of movies that were geared toward you. Like, it was a lot of, like, general audience stuff like Star Wars, which was really for everybody, not really for kids. But then, like, specific children's movies, they were hard to come by because the Disney Vault was in full effect. So when I would see when we were like Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, I grasped onto it. And that movie it's brilliant. I love it.
And that movie had the benefit of so many other things like It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Story and whatnot that just got played over and over again, right? Because cable at the time, at the beginning, you would see the same show. I mean, literally, you could watch Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, and if you came in the middle, that's okay, because as soon as it ended, it would start up again.
And then you would just catch up on it later.
Yeah, I know that's not how cable works now, but back then that's how it worked. And so I do remember Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. I was older then because, like I said, I saw it in the theater when it first came out. So I was getting my brother to watch it. Yeah. And of course, Charlie Brown cartoon, he liked it, but it was a little long and there were some parts of it that were a little boring for him. You know what I mean? So, because he was much, much younger, and but he still loved it, and as he got older, that was something he really enjoyed. But a Snoopy Come Home, that was another one.
I remember before that one,
that one made me cry.
Yep.
I saw that one. Okay, so I saw that one. At the local library. They had a story time thing, and sometimes instead of just reading a story, they would play, a movie like that. And I'm talking like reel-to-reel type movies. This was before VHS. So I got to see Come Home Snoopy, projected, on a screen at the library. And I remember getting really emotional about that. That was a good story. If you haven't seen Come Home Snoopy, that's a really good one.
It was, I believe, I saw that when I was younger too. I need to rewatch it, but I remember the last scene where I think he ends up getting reunited with his original owner. Is that what happened?
Right. The whole story is about him making the trek to go see his original owner.
Yeah. And then he runs into her, and they were like, "Oh, he's going to stay with her, and no more Charlie Brown." And then suddenly, the apartment complex, there's the sign. What does the sign read?
Dogs allowed.
Yes, I was like, perfect. And that's a constant thing with Snoopy, even in the newer Peanuts movie they made a few years back when I think Snoopy tries sneaking into the school with the rest of the kids, and then Lucy kicks him out and says, "No dogs allowed!" And she's like, oh, but I remember Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. The little things in there, like the fact that there was a reference to, oh my goodness, what was the movie with Peter Fonda and... Never mind. Hold on.
I don't know.
I hate it when I blank on this. Dennis Hopper, Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson. Peter Fonda. Give me a minute. Okay. Excuse me. It's like a very famous movie.
Cannot think of a movie that all those people were in.
Oh, the chat's laughing. Just Easy Rider. There's a little homage to Easy Rider.
Oh, Easy
Rider. But Snoopy is basically, he looks just like the Captain America character from Easy Rider. That's
okay.
And it's kind of bizarre because as a kid you're not going to get that reference because you probably should be watching Easy Rider as a 5-year-old.
Exactly. Exactly right.
When you get older, you realize like, oh, that's what they were kind of targeting. Then they get to that camp, and what are they having them do at the camp? They're making wallets. Why?
Well, because no, I can speak to that specifically. I used to go to summer camp all the time. They always had the arts and crafts, and leatherworking was one of the things you did, and you would make a wallet by taking punched out pieces of leather and punching holes into it, and then tying them together with straps of leather, and you'd make a wallet. And they were always really shitty, and they fell apart as soon as you got home. And then you went out and bought yourself a good wallet,
Oh my goodness. And then of course they have the race, right? The great race, the river raft race. And I'm thinking, what adults in charge of this camp are going to send these kids all by themselves out
whitewater rafting? Exactly. That's dangerous.
Into the wilderness. There are bears out there.
I know.
And
I know.
There are these horrible bullies in it too, which
Yep.
Get a load of the kid with the weird name, Charlie Brown. Ha ha ha! And of course, you think Charlie Brown. That's the most ordinary name you could think of.
Yeah, there's nothing weird about that, really, if you think about it. The only reason someone would get picked on for a name like Charlie Brown is because there's a famous character named Charlie Brown.
There you go. And it's just the Sally always saying, "Defend me, brother. He insulted me."
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. And then, of course, Linus comes to rescue with the blanket, which I thought was funny.
Crack. Back.
But yeah, then the 80s.
Oh, isn't he the cutest thing?
Oh, she would say that. But I do love... Check out Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, if you get a chance. I won't spoil who wins the race. That's the big thing at the end.
Yeah, I know who. Yep, I remember.
But there were all the specials. Of course, we had the holiday specials. They had some weird ones. There was Flash Beagle. I don't know if you remember that one.
No.
Apparently, it was a send-up of things like Flashdance. In fact, I think Franklin was dressed like one of the characters from Breaking 2.
You know what? I think I remember seeing like some merch from that, and I remember seeing Snoopy dressed with the leg warmers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And I remember watching on the Disney Channel, of all places, they would re-air the thing, What Have We Learned, Charlie Brown. Have you heard of that special?
No.
I believe it's I think it's the Memorial Day special. And it's kind of dark for a Peanuts cartoon because this actually, I think it takes place after the fourth movie, the one where they go to France. And they're like and like they do a flashback, like Charlie's looking at his picture book for their trip and says, "Oh, remember we took that when we were in France and we were on the beaches of Normandy because they have to camp out overnight and they're at the beaches." And Linus looks around, he's like, and suddenly you see all this footage of like soldiers storming the beach and like this kind of eerie music, and Linus gets up and looks around and he says, "This is where it all happened." And of course, Linus being the one who knows all the knowledge of a lot of things, he explains to them we're at Normandy Beach, and he's explaining what the Allies did during World War II and how many young men lost their lives, in the service of that great cause. And
Yeah.
And then they go and they learn about World War One in that episode too. And as a kid, I'm like, I didn't even know much about these wars, especially World War One. I mean, I think I knew about World War II a little bit because I, Indiana Jones. I knew the bad guys.
In a lot of ways, we covered World War II so much in history, and World War I was just the war that leads into World War II.
Yeah. It's funny, they even play the Eisenhower speech. I think one of Eisenhower's speeches about that were lost. And you could tell Eisenhower, he was almost tearing up a little bit when he was explaining, what happened in that time.
Yeah.
Everybody that lost their lives, and General Eisenhower, later President Eisenhower. But yeah, and it's just Peanut specials though, and I've of course tried to catch up on them over the years. I've watched some weird ones. Apparently, there's there's one in which I think Snoopy, like Charlie Brown saying, "You're much too pampered a dog. If you were in Alaska, you'd be a sled dog." And then I think Snoopy falls asleep and he has a horrible dream where he's a sled dog in Alaska.
Yeah,
he has to become tough and like fight off the other dogs, and it's just,
right.
It's one of the darker Peanut specials. Of course, it's kind of all in jest anyway. But
I'll tell you, the Peanuts always dealt with some pretty heavy themes, and darn it, just a lot of heart.
Yes. Hold on, got to remove somebody from the chat.
Well, if it's that love face, I already got that.
Oh, good. Okay. Anyway, sorry, that distracted me.
Strips without clothing. Ooh, as opposed to strips with clothing, I guess.
Okay. Anyways, be gone the bots. I might say something else that rhymes with bots, but I'll be good on this channel. But yeah, someone was asking in the chat, I believe it was Auditor Dread, he was asking, did he ever get with the little redheaded girl? I think Joshua V says in the movie. I think he might have been referring to the Peanuts movie. I don't want to spoil the Peanuts movie, but check it out. You might have a pleasant surprise toward the end. It's because the whole thing about the redheaded girl is he never is around her. Like, she's always this object that's off in the distance, right?
Right.
There's a wonderful New Year's Day special where he's going to go to Peppermint Patty's New Year's Eve party, and the little redheaded girl's going to be there, but he's too busy trying to write a report on War and Peace, I think, because the teacher gave them War and Peace to read over the Christmas break. Because why not? Why not torture your students by giving them War and Peace, and you have to write a paper on it before the vacation's over? And he's so busy studying that he falls asleep and he misses the party. And I don't know who dances, if it's Linus that dances with the redheaded girl, and he missed out on the whole thing, and I think he's still got a D on the paper. I think that's the thing with Charlie Brown, though. I've read some entry where he's the American archetype of the lovable loser. I think that's what he's been called.
The lovable loser. Yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it.
And I have to say, though, I forget which YouTuber did this, but he did a great video on Charlie Brown, and he made a point that the whole point of Charlie Brown, because he made a point about the first Charlie Brown movie, which I believe was called You're a Good Boy, Charlie Brown.
You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And in that, it's the whole thing about him. He wins a spelling bee at school, right?
Right.
It's like it should be this great moment for him, but now he's having to be entered into the state competition, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just the fact that he won the school competition, now he has to get thrown up in the state, and about all the mounting pressure on him. And I might be spoiling the movie, but he gets the word at the state spelling bee contest, and he has to spell a word, and what is the word but beagle?
Yeah.
And he spells it wrong. And then he gets home and he loses for the school, and it's this whole horrible thing. And I think with the gentleman who made the video, I'll try to remember. Maybe I'll put it in the description if I clip this. But he made a point that what Charlie Brown was about, it's about how when you're a kid you're going to fail, and it's okay to feel bad about failing, and that's kind of the point of the character. And I think that's interesting.
Well, I think that's a lesson that people need to learn. You know,
we're all gonna, you will fail.
It's gonna happen eventually. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that is 4 things from Love Face. Why are they still showing up? Hold on.
I don't know.
Block. Error occurred?
Well, it's because he's already blocked.
Okay. Well, hopefully these don't keep showing up.
Well, I've just reported it too. I don't know why it keeps showing up.
I don't know what that is. The emojis are cute though. But do you have anything else to say about Charlie Brown before we get on to our first news story?
No. I think the transition though is that you're absolutely right. He was the lovable loser that, like I said, sometimes very, very hard lessons, and a lot of heart,
Let's see. Would you say that Charlie Brown is somewhat like Peter Parker in relatability? Kind of. I mean,
kind of a different kind of character, but yeah, in a lot of ways. I don't know. I always felt like there was a little bit of sadness, that you always felt in relationship to Charlie Brown. It was a little bit encouraging, but a little bit sad too sometimes, because you were dealing with some stark realities.
Yep. Charlie Brown voice actor dies at 65. Oh, wow.
This is really, really tragic too.
This is kind of a dark, true story here, Drew.
Yeah.
Carlsbad native Peter Robbins, the voice actor who brought Charlie Brown to life in the Peanuts cartoons from the 1960s, has died. His family told Fox 5 he was 65. So I'm assuming he was the first Charlie Brown voice actor.
Yeah. He's the one that we were pretty much talking about all along here.
Yeah. Robbins' family said he took his own life last week. Fox 5's Phil Blauer was a close friend of the voice actor over the past 25 years. He says he had closely followed the voice actor's ups and downs, from interviewing him in jail because of criminal threats he made against several people, including San Diego County Sheriff Bill Gore, to speaking with him when he was in rehab battling an addiction to drugs and alcohol. Despite all the darkness, he still hung on to his childhood hero. Robin started voicing Charlie Brown in 1963 and also in several more Peanuts cartoons. He adored the character so much he had a tattoo of Charlie Brown and Snoopy on his arm.
Yeah.
Last time Fox 5 interviewed him in 2019, he had just gotten out of prison, speaking about his lifelong battle with mental illness. Yeah. I would recommend to anybody that has bipolar disorder to take it seriously, because your life can turn around in the span of a month, like it did to me, Robin said. I came out of prison and I'm a better person for it. I'm much more humble and grateful and thankful that I lived through the experience. Robin's loved ones are asking for privacy at this difficult time. They say they will hold a memorial service for him at a future date.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah. And ordinarily, with an article like this, most YouTube channels would say, if you're having struggles, here's the number to suicide prevention hotline, seek help, blah blah blah. I'm gonna say this. By the time you get to the point where you need to call a hotline, you've missed a lot of the boats. You need to be around people. You need to have good relationship with friends and family, and you need to be paying attention to each other. Be close to the people that you love, and you should be able to see the signs if you're involved with them. If you're only seeing them once a week or once a month or only at holidays, and then something happens, that's not where you want to be. Get involved with people. Don't let these times that we're in keep you from the ones you love.
Yeah.
That's my thing on it. But yeah, just the idea that the voice behind the lovable loser that had so many bittersweet lessons to teach us was struggling in just that way is, I don't know if it's ironic or not, but it certainly has a synchronicity to it. Yeah,
it is tragic. I mean, I guess he was struggling with bipolar disorder, and just it's sad how his whole thing came in. And it looks like he had some criminal issues too. So that
Well, and I think that's probably directly related to the
drugs,
bipolar. I don't know. Well, drugs is also a
drugs
symptom
drugs and
of
alcohol
bipolar.
too. So
Yeah.
alcohol abuse.
Drugs and alcohol are very common with someone who's struggling with bipolar disorder because they're self-medicating. And you start acting kind of crazy and shooting your mouth off, and you shoot it off to the wrong person, you're going to end up in jail. Yeah. So it's a shame, but it is the news. Real quick before we go on to the next one, though, Netter dropped me a message because I actually knew about this and hadn't gotten around to it to put into the notes. Did you also see Howard Hessman just died? WKRP in Cincinnati.
I was mentioning that early on. Yeah.
And he was what was the other role that he played? He played a teacher.
He was also on Mary Hartman.
Well, he was on Mary Hartman, right? What was the name of that role he played where he plays a teacher? I can't remember.
Hold on.
With the real pretty redheaded girl.
Yeah, he was only there for 4 seasons and then he quit.
Yeah, then Billy Connolly took over for him. That's right.
Oh.
Netter's going to look it up, but yeah, he passed too. He was what, like 65 or something? Head of the class. Thank you, Big Al.
I remember that movie.
Oh, 81. Okay. 81. But yeah, that's a shame. But and that's the other thing too. I mean, we've been talking a lot about celebrities passing away, and when one of them self-deletes or when someone dies young,
yeah,
it really is tragic. But we're seeing these people in their 80s and 90s, and you're going, well, it's got to happen eventually. This should not be that big a shock, right?
No, we're not immortal.
But it still sad, and this is just another one of those life lessons, like we were talking about with Charlie Brown. Eventually, everyone dies. And so all the people you look up to, all the celebrities, even your friends and family that are older than you, it's going to happen eventually. So love them while you can. That's the only thing you can do.
That reminds me of an episode of the Disney cartoon Gargoyles from back in the day. I believe Tony Shalhoub played a character in it. Who's the Egyptian god of death? Anubis?
Yes.
Yeah, because it turns out like a lot of the different gods and stuff were Oberon's children, from Midsummer Night's Dreams, and they'd run it, and they were running into these characters in different parts of the world. But anyway, he was yelling at Anubis because his son died, and he's like, "It's not fair. You took him from me." And Anubis says, it was basically death. He says, "Well, actually, it's the only fair thing. I take young and old alike, rich and poor. It's death."
Yeah. It is the great equalizer, right?
Yes. So I thought that was interesting, especially.
And that's the other thing too. Rich or poor, you all dance with death eventually.
Yep. A reminder that we are getting older.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And this is what I was trying to get across to somebody on social media when they were bitching and moaning about Book of Boba Fett. He's not a badass. They Disneyfied him. I'm like, the character and the actor playing him is in his 60s, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You better believe you're not the same person you are when you're in your 30s and your 40s. You change. You start to look at life differently. And that's what this story is about. This is clearly the story of a man who had a near-death experience and is looking back at his life and rethinking some of his priorities. You need to deal with it. This is character progression. Okay.
Do you know what I had an experience, well, not quite like that, but when I saw Scream 5, do you know what I noticed? The Gen Xers are the older adults now in the slasher movie, and it's
exactly.
The boomers are nowhere in those movies anymore.
That's exactly right.
And then you had like younger millennials, and they go to this part. They end up. Every Scream movie has to end in some kind of party. They're like, "Oh, hello, Gen Z." And of course, this guy is like a mid-tier millennial. And I'm realizing, even the millennials are getting older now. And you realize that.
And I remember seeing movies with my mom and stuff where she would talk about exactly that, where she would say, yeah, you know, the people I grew up with, you know, like Annette Funicello and Bobby Darin and all those kinds, you know, that were in all the beach films and whatnot. Yeah. Now they're the older people, you know, in parent roles or grandparent roles to the younger kids. And that's just the way life goes, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's always been, if you're continuing a storyline or a franchise or whatever, you had to have people grow up and a new generation come in and hand it off. And if you do it right, everybody's happy with that. Everyone's like, okay, this is the way it should be, you know?
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Tightly, Osiris is the Egyptian god of death, and that he rules the underworld. Anubis is the only one who collects and judges souls. He's the Grim Reaper, and St. Peter rolled a one. Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at, because I think of death, I think of the Grim Reaper.
I thought, oh yeah, I suppose you're right. Right.
But that's sort of what I was thinking of. But
right.
What are we doing now, though? Okay, Disney responds to... Okay, now...
Oh, yeah. Did you like the way I titled this segment?
Yeah, let me read that, actually. It's called Hi-Ho, It's Off to Woke We Go. Don't joke. That might be in the movie.
That was me. I didn't take that from anybody else. It just jumped into my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm running with it.
This is serious business here. A lot of heady emotions this week.
Well, and that is, and in fact, that is why I added a couple articles here, because I just felt like if we're going to wade into this topic, I want to give as much voice to the people in that community as possible. And we're going to be presenting it secondhand, but I think it's still important.
I was originally not going to weigh into this until Disney decided to stick their nose in after hearing this. So I'm like, okay, now it's new. Now it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. Disney on Tuesday responded to recent harsh criticisms made by Peter Dinklage about the upcoming live-action remake of Snow White. The Emmy-winning Game of Thrones star was a guest on Monday's episode of Mark Maron's WTF podcast.
Appropriately named.
That's not the mark in our chat. Okay.
No, I meant the WTF chat. You know?
Yeah, well, pretty much. Where he blasted he was... Emmy Award-winning Game of Thrones star was a guest on Monday's episode of Mark Maron's WTF podcast, where he blasted the announced film based on the 1937 animated classic. After noting the casting of West Side Story breakout Rachel Ziegler, Dinklage told Maron, literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback when they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, and then you're still making that effing backward story about seven dwarfs living in a cave together. What the F are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. Dinklage is not involved in the Disney project, it goes on to say.
Yeah, let me stop you right there. So the first thing is, if you're going to get on a soapbox about something, understand what it is that you're bitching about. Okay, there's a lot wrong with what he said right there. First, he's mischaracterizing the characters. You know, before you start, criticizing, understand what it is you're criticizing. And he starts with living in a cave. Never once are the dwarves in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs depicted as living in caves. They live in a cottage in the woods. They work in a cave because they're blue-collar workers. They're miners. Okay? Yeah. This is the thing. These are not, some schlubs. These aren't trolls. These are, now, one could argue these are actually Tolkien-esque dwarves. These are not diminutive humans, with a birth defect. These are the original meaning of dwarf.
Yeah, okay? Well, they're mythical creatures, I would guess. Right?
Yes, this is from European folklore. Okay, yes. This is not, and this is for someone who's a dwarf. He should understand where the term dwarfism comes from. yes, that is a commonly used term in medicine. If you have a birth defect that causes small stature, they call it dwarfism, but that comes from these folklore characters called dwarves, okay? That is not what these are, and that's the problem. So that's the first thing that he gets wrong, Secondly, in what way is this a negative depiction? If anything, these characters are the heroes. I mean, the name of the film is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They are 7/8 of the characters in the title.
When Walt Disney received a special Oscar for the movie, and it was the usual Oscar statue with, like, I think 7 little statues next to it. It was like they specially made it just for him, because they considered the movie such a triumph. They gave him a special Oscar that year when it came out. I don't.
Now, had he gone about this a little differently, if he had said, it's one thing to do a cartoon about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's another thing to translate it into live action, because as soon as you do that, then you have to make the decision, are we going to cast real human dwarves? And then you start getting into all of that. Or are you going to go the Tolkien route, where you have, John Rhys Davies kind of slightly shrunk down or something like that, but not as small as someone with dwarfism would be. It starts to draw these kinds of things. You had no problem when it was all cartoon saying, yeah, the 7 dwarves are just, these folklore creatures. But once you start casting them as actors, but then what you're doing is you're shooting the whole industry in the foot for diminutive actors. They're like, oh, great, we're going to have a chance at a role. No, we're not, because Peter Dinklage shot off his mouth.
Yes. Oh, W. Hornswoggle called Peter out for taking little people's jobs. We're going to get to that in a minute. So, yeah, we're aware of that. Horizon Talk says, I would put real money on Disney never planning to use real actors for the dwarves in this story, and taking the opportunity for Pete running his mouth to announce it.
Yeah,
but what they had to say next.
That does bring up the same. We've already covered this ground with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where they decided that all of the Oompa Loompas were going to be cast by what's the actor's name?
I'll find out. Hold on.
Deep Roy.
Okay.
Right? He played all of the characters. So one actor plays all those roles. And there were a lot of little people that came out and said, hey, the hell? You could have cast a whole bunch of us, and no, you made it all one person and then you CG. That's kind of crummy. And, we may potentially have the exact same problem this time around, where if they decide to go the CG route or any kind of animation route, now anybody can voice those roles, and a lot of people don't get an opportunity,
Well, let me read the rest of this article. Disney attempted to set the record straight following the remarks. This is their quote: to avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these 7 characters and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. We look forward to sharing more as the film heads into production after a lengthy development period, a Disney spokesperson said in a statement to the Hollywood Reporter. This is working my last nerve. It's never a person, it's Disney spokesperson. Who said this?
I don't know. In a way, it doesn't matter, because it is their official response, right?
So, what are they talking about? Reinforcing stereotypes for the original? Were there stereotypes in the original film? They just had different quirks. Like what was?
Well, I don't know, because Peter Dinklage himself doesn't point out what they were, other than some bullshit about living in a cave. I don't remember ever.
They lived in a house. They lived in a house in the original movie.
Exactly.
Snow White was cleaning it for them. Remember?
Yeah.
Oh man. You think of this remake, she's going to be cleaning the house for the dwarves?
Well, and that's something
that's happen.
And that's something that that another YouTuber brought up, was the whole idea that, this was this idea that the original folklore did not actually specify that they were dwarves, just that they were 7 guys, 7 minors. And that's kind of weird for a woman to be living with 7 men. So you gotta you gotta change that a little bit, right? But the tongue-in-cheek joke was, these are 7 bachelors who aren't getting any housework done because they don't have anyone taking care of the house, and that was woman's work. So when Snow White comes along looking for a place to stay, she earns her keep by, being their housekeeper because they need a woman to take care of the house. Well, I think that's putting an awfully fine point on it. I think you could very easily tell the same story in a modern setting, with modern sensibilities, and still have the circumstance that this. Remember, Snow White is a princess who is fleeing the royal palace for her life because of an assassination attempt. And now she is reduced to menial labor. She is literally becoming a servant to, in this case, a group of minors that, need housekeeping work done. This isn't just because she's a woman, okay? It's because she's available and she needs work and a place to stay. Snow White could just as easily be a prince running from an assassination attempt.
Okay. How about create new stuff and stop messing with classics? It's become eternal. Yeah, well, again, I these movies, I'm sorry, these movies I think are just cash grabs. That's what I think.
Well, and this has been a long-running problem for Disney, starting with their direct-to-DVD sequels, and then eventually their live action, and I put in inverted quotes, live action, because since half of them are CG anyway, are they really live action? It's just a different kind of animation. But remakes of films, a lot of people are saying, you know what? There's a lot of folklore out there and a lot of public domain fairy tales you could be telling and telling new stories. Get on it, Disney. And you want to start race swapping these characters? Well, those races that you want to represent have their own folklore that needs to be learned if you really want to honor a people and their culture.
Look, when they say a spokesperson, it's something that means it got a statement from a faceless source, like a press release, probably email. Like a press release or an email list that was put together in a committee in the depths of order, probably.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, and you're kind of right. But again, I will point out that is the official response from Disney. I don't care if it's a faceless individual or a committee group or whatever. It represents the official line from the company, and you could argue that's Bob Chapek. You could argue that that's what's her name, Susan, what's her name now, or whatever. But remember, we are talking about a company. A company is nothing but a legal entity made up of a bunch of faceless suits. So any statement you get is going to be exactly that.
Anyway, let me read those. Still years from release, Snow White will have cultural consultants. That goes back to what you were just saying a minute ago, right? Are you sure about that?
Well, and there's also the fact that since it is years away, and we also are dealing with the fact that we have a new regime coming in, I think there's going to be a lot of second guessing going on this between Peter Dinklage and the Latina, hubbub a couple weeks ago, and who knows what else is going to be going on down the line. They're going to definitely be rethinking a lot of things about this. So whether this film actually makes it into production and what form it takes remains to be seen.
The studio has been reimagining the dwarf characters since the early stages and intended for the characters to be CG animated. Well, if they were CG animated, what's the issue then?
And that's just another form of animation, right?
Yeah, they were going to be computer animated characters like Dobby from Harry Potter or something. I don't know.
And in my personal opinion, is that a live action remake?
I don't know.
This is the whole problem with the concept of a live action remake. And then you have all the magical, birds and animals of the forest, right? Is she going to be singing, with the animals around her and stuff? That's all going to have to be CG too. So is it really live action?
Gotcha. Well, I doubt they're going to have real birds on the set, right? You never know. I don't.
That could be a health concern too.
Okay, let's move on. Peter Dinklage just put 7 of us out of work. Oh, wait, what's this? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, this one's from the Daily Mail, but this is what I was talking about. There, that the community of dwarf actors are getting a little up in arms about this because that's. Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of their bread and butter. These roles are like guaranteed to them. Well,
yeah.
Dwarf actors have reacted furiously to Disney canceling the 7 dwarfs from its Snow White remake after Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage called them offensive, saying the decision robs them of work and the chance to fulfill what for some is a dream role. Speaking to the Daily Mail after Disney's decision to rethink the characters, multiple actors and agents said there are plenty who would have happily accepted the jobs that Dinklage, a Golden Globe winner who was paid $1.2 million per episode on Game of Thrones, said were backwards. The actors say Dinklage is not the authority on what the community as a whole finds offensive, and that in canceling the roles, Disney has done far more damage to them than good.
Yeah, one quote that I heard was, "Who died and made him king of the dwarves?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's got a point.
And how hypocritical, right? That he takes a role like Tyrion, the imp, right?
Yeah.
Becomes wealthy and well-known, and then basically says something like this. Someone said it's like he climbed the ladder and then kicked the ladder out from under so that no one else could come up.
Maybe. Part of me wonders, too, if this whole thing in the podcast was meant as a trolling joke or if he was serious. I don't know. Maybe it was probably serious, but it did feel like a troll move. Because, of course, Disney's trying to get a lot of clout for their casting of that one actress as Snow White. And then,
well, my thought is, here's the other thing. He has nothing to do with this show. So he should just shut his mouth. He has nothing to say about this. If he had been cast in a role and had something to say about it, fine. Or if it was Sour Grapes, he wanted a role and didn't get it, maybe then too.
Got a role in Avengers Infinity War. He was in there, remember?
Yep. And that's the other thing. Now he's starting to change the mindset about dwarf actors. Just because you're a dwarf doesn't mean you can't play a role that was imagined for a fully average size actor, right? You can do it as long as you can pull off the role, right? But you start shooting your mouth off like this and saying, well, you should only be taking those roles now. You shouldn't be taking. Do dwarfs not exist that they can actually play themselves? I mean, what are we talking about here, dude? I think you're doing more harm than good here.
Yeah. Some are now begging Disney to bring the parts back and are begging for the chance of audition for them. Makes me so sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
To think there are 7 roles for dwarfs that can't get normal acting roles or very few and far between roles, and now they are gone because of this guy. Yeah, so. And then it goes on to the WWE superstar, better known as Hornswoggle. I'm going to go ahead and post what he had to say as well.
Yep.
I have a plan to fix this, though. I'm going to get into that in a minute. You'll be excited. I'm going to fix this for Disney. So let's go ahead and paste this. And it's Dylan Posse, former WWE superstar, better known to fans as Hornswoggle or Swoggle, weighed in on the recent criticism directed towards the new Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs live-action Disney remake, which is set to be released in 2023. The film will star Rachel Ziegler as Snow White and Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen. Here's my issues, Dylan said. My issue with everything Peter Dinklage just said with this whole situation about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and the remake coming. It's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's not Snow White and the Seven Normal-Sized Humans like every other movie. This is a fairy tale, a remake of a fairy tale, and this is also giving Seven Dwarfs people, real-life people, actors, a chance to star in a movie in a role that's fit for them, literally fit for them.
Yeah.
The issue at hand by saying this, he's doing something worse for the dwarf and the little people community. He's trying to take roles away. It really blows my mind. The whole woke thing, you're going too far, in my opinion. It's just too far. It's too much to try and change something that doesn't need to be changed. There's nothing wrong with how dwarfs were portrayed. He had no problem with being cast as a dwarf in Elf. The whole situation that Paycheck cleared is fine when he was in Game of Thrones. He had absolutely no issue with that role when he was cast for a dwarf. That paycheck cleared just fine. Now all of a sudden is crazy. This needs to be changed for the current culture. Come on now. So,
you know, I want to call out one thing that he said. I want to focus on that post. He said something about this woke stuff, right?
Yeah.
He specifically said that. And in Peter Dinklage's little rant, he said something about everyone's concerned about how things have gone so woke, whatever that means. Well, maybe before you start commenting on it, you should find out what it means. You literally just declared your ignorance. How can you talk about something if you don't know what it means? Look into it, pal, then get back to us.
I want to read Horizon Talker's comment. I've heard a lot of people talking about this, and I'm still not sure exactly what Dinklage's problem was. Did he object to them going into caves? They're not drunks or jokes like he complains about. It really feels like he just wanted to whine about something, and the only thing he could complain about safely was something short person related. I don't know.
Yeah, and actually the next piece he's going to read by Brad Williams kind of gets into that too, where he talks about the fact that these seven dwarves are really, if from a certain point of view, you know, to borrow a phrase, the heroes of this whole film. If you think about it, what do? She has nowhere to go. She's running for her life, and they take her in. Now, of course, they ask her to help them out in return, but, you know, they give her a place to stay, and they look after her, and they know that she's being chased, and they're willing to protect her, right? But who do we look to as the hero? It's the rich boy who's, do you know who my father is?
Yeah, let me read from this article. Yeah, here's what Brad Williams had to say about Disney's forthcoming take on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs when teams caught up with him. On the one hand, Brad Williams agrees with Peter Dinklage about it being somewhat regressive to bring Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to the big screen again with regards to the title Seven Men, even if a Latina actress has been cast as Snow White, a role often played by a white actress. But on the other hand, Williams acknowledged that this movie could be a way for him, along with other performing little people, to get a role in a major motion picture. Thinking outside the box, Brad Williams also suggested a way Disney's live-action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs could be progressive without causing issues with the dwarfism community, and it would require setting the prince who shows up at the end to the sidelines, in the comedian's words. But yeah, I think there are ways to fix it. I think there are ways you can still do a progressive Snow White and not offend the dwarves, like make Snow White end up with one of the dwarves. How about that? I mean, she goes for a prince who made out with her while she was legally dead. I mean, that's kind of creepy, right?
Oh, now we're starting that shit again.
Oh, you know that's not going to be in this movie. I'll be shocked. They bring complaints on the right about this. We were talking. We talked about this a few months ago.
Right,
okay,
we
Brad
did.
Williams added that all the seven dwarfs are "quote unquote" self-made as diamond miners. Have a nice house and won't hesitate to protect her, whereas the prince radiates, "Do you know who my father is?"
Yep. That's
When the interviewer brought up how some people think Dinklage is single-handedly taking away roles from seven little people because of his Snow White comments, Williams countered that Hollywood is doing that more by not providing more roles to little people, while Dinklage is, quote-unquote, pretty much the only one working in Hollywood that doesn't play stereotypical dwarf roles. He's actually in a movie about Hervé Villechaize, which I was kind of curious to watch.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, and speaking to that whole, magical kiss thing, I don't think this is going to happen, but if Disney wanted to be smart about it, all they have to do is establish a relationship between the prince and princess before these events. They were in an arranged marriage. She was already in love with him, and then, it's not really quite so big a problem, right?
Grumpy is my second favorite Disney character after Prince Philip for a very long time until that came out. Interesting. All right, so I was thinking on this as well, and I was thinking though that maybe I could maybe.
Although, wait, before we go on from that, I did want to say one thing. He did suggest the idea of her getting together with one of the Seven Dwarfs. I think that's a really bad idea because that leads it way too close to some of the adult parodies that have been out there.
Oh!
Let's kind of stay away from this, huh?
Anyway, I have some ideas on how to fix this. All right? I'm gonna
go for it.
I figure.
And then I want to give mine.
That's fine. I'm going to do mine first, and then you can curve yours. Entire screen. Let me know if you can see this. All right, there we go. I always get creeped out when I do this.
Because you're sharing. Just make sure there's nothing on your desktop you don't want anyone else to see.
I'm getting weird butts on the computer tonight. I'm wondering where they're coming from. It's just weird. Oh, yeah, that's the keynote. No. Shit. Forget you saw that. Let's start again. This is my suggestion for what we're going to do. I meant to open
cool!
What?
Darth Vader.
Shut up!
Darth Vader comes in and wipes out the... No, okay.
That's the punchline got lost. Anyway, Agent Boomer's Seven Dwarf substitutes for Snow White remake. Disney owns a lot of shit. That's what I have on this, okay?
Yeah, right.
No! Kermit the Frog. Are they doing anything with the Muppets right now? Throw Kermit in there, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, gosh, yes! A Muppet Snow White!
No, not exactly. Just keep moving, okay? Animal.
Okay.
What do you think? Animal could be in there, too? Swedish Chef. I like the quote.
Bork.
Okay, but also Bubba the Bear. I would put him there. Now, they own other things besides Muppets. How about Ted Betterhead from the Country Bears movie? Remember?
Nice.
Two bears, different franchises though. Rabbit, leader of the 100-acre woods.
Oh, yeah.
Live action Chris Robin. Peter Dinklage did his voice. I didn't realize that. In that movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Of course, Darth Vader. Because put Darth Vader in anything, people are going to run out and see it.
Actually, replace the Huntsman with Darth Vader. That would be good.
No. Just I want Darth Vader, and he can force choke the Queen, and that's how they get rid of him.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't know what the chat thinks of my plan, but you own all this stuff, Disney, use it. And you don't have to have dwarf characters and get offensive. You could just, have the Muppets and have everything else. What do we think?
And then, of course, there's my suggestion. Stop frickin' making live-action remakes of old classic cartoons. Just move on and do something new already.
Miss Piggy as the princess.
Yeah, I agree, Mark.
Now that I think about it, there probably should be a Muppet Snow White movie.
This is that is really the solution, right? Because the combination of our two ideas here is they're not doing anything with the Muppets, right? They want to keep making live action remakes, and they shouldn't. So what they need to do is just like so many people love a Muppet Christmas Carol, right? Everybody every year goes off about how great Michael Caine did in that, and how beloved. For some people, that is their favorite Christmas Carol. Remake Snow White and use the Muppets. Have one live action person, maybe the villain, right? Have all the rest of it be the friggin' Muppets. I'm not saying Gal Gadot should lose her role as the evil queen. Just cast everyone else as Muppets.
Yeah. Gal Gadot as the.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing her as the evil queen. I'm hoping they kind of go with a slightly sexy, evil queen.
Is it wrong, even in the original cartoon, that I always fancy the evil queen more?
Right.
I've noted. Once
I know.
An actress playing her. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, okay. I'm with you 100%. I agree. Maybe it is weird, but then I'm just as weird as you are.
You know who played the evil queen in that the one that Kristen Cruick was in about 20 years ago when Smallville was big and they did a made-for-TV Snow White?
God, was it that long ago?
Yeah, and I think Vera Farmiga,
wow.
Yeah, not bad. Okay, so here we go. What about you have any ideas? You like the Muppet idea, I guess, huh?
I do like the Muppet idea.
Because they don't do anything with the Muppets. Might as well just throw them into a Snow White movie, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to use all Muppets. I was like, let's keep adding more Muppets than I thought.
But what would be funny then is if the seven dwarfs are like, the Electric Mayhem.
Yes.
But then who else they have is that big orange guy that was kind of like, and she. I could just see a line where Snow White says, "You're a dwarf." Yes, I suffer from giantism. I'm an outcast among dwarves. I'm a giant dwarf.
Sam Eagle could be in the group too, right? And
right.
A queen. I'm not in favor of queens. That's not American.
Yeah, right.
All right, but anyway, moving right along and feeling fancy.
Footloose and fancy free. Yeah.
Some good news here. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Do we like Ghostbusters Afterlife?
Oh yes, this is some good news. Some Schadenfreude. Good stuff.
There is a right answer to whether or not you like Ghostbusters Afterlife. It comes out, I believe, on Tuesday, right?
Yes, it does. Some people have already gotten their HD collections.
Really?
I've seen some people posting about it, and I know what happens. Sometimes places release them before they should, and that's cool. And I think sometimes YouTubers get them a little bit earlier so they can do their reviews and stuff to boost secondary sales and whatnot.
Interesting.
But I'll be getting mine regular time with all the plebes, and that's okay. I'm fine with that.
Ghostbusters Afterlife domestic box office equals 2016 movie.
Yes.
And I know you're probably thinking right now, well, that doesn't sound that impressive, but it is. Let me read.
Yeah.
Just ahead of its arrival on physical home media, Ghostbusters Afterlife has equaled the domestic box office result of Paul Feig's much maligned Ghostbusters Answer the Call, and is only around 30 million short of the worldwide takings of the 2016 movie, despite being released in the current pandemic conditions that have seen so many movies struggle to break even in their theatrical runs. With the movie now available in digital HD and coming to Blu-ray and DVD, both as an individual title and as part of a new Ghostbusters box set filled with never-before-seen extras from the original 1984 movie and its 1989 sequel, there is no doubt about the success of the franchise return to Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and the original as the original Ghostbusters lineup. While in ordinary circumstances a worldwide box office of just under $200 billion would be nothing to shout about, that kind of box office result is enough to secure a place as one of the biggest movies of 2021. And Ghostbusters Afterlife managed to not only do it against all odds, but also did it on roughly half the budget of Feig's female-led outing, meaning that it not only reinvigorated the franchise with a group of new characters, but also scratched a 30-year itch to see the original gang busting ghosts once more on screen. And it says, full of Easter eggs, shared story points, and even using some of the original effects from 1984's Ghostbusters, fans were more than happy with the legacy sequel, even if some critics were quick to call it out the fan service of it all. Yeah, we've heard that.
Yeah.
In the end, the fans spoke out, and it looks like in a time when people were just looking for something familiar, something old and new at the same time, and something they could just lose themselves to nostalgia with. Ghostbusters Afterlife was the perfect movie arriving at the perfect time. I couldn't say it better myself.
So there's a couple things I want to say about that. First, we got to get past this idea that fan service is some sort of a dirty word. Fan service is exactly what you want if you want to freaking make money. Okay? And if you're making a movie, you want to make money. That's just the way it is. We'll be talking about that more in some other pieces we'll be talking about. But by and large, movie companies want to make money. They want the fans to come. They want them to spend money. That's why you give them fan service. You know, people aren't paying for dog droppings. They are paying for what they want. You know, so we all need to get past that. Secondly, I think that just getting even with 2016 is a huge victory when you consider that the legacy of Ghostbusters 2016 has been an anchor around the ankle of the Ghostbusters franchise. They were operating at a disadvantage because there were a lot of fans that didn't want to go see it because they were already turned off from the franchise by 2016. And it took weeks and weeks of people saying, wow, this is great, this is awesome, this is Return to Form, this is the sequel we've been waiting for. It honors everything that went before it for people to start going, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go check that out. You know, it took this long for it to get up and running. So that's the second point I wanted to make. Third point is what I've been saying all along. What isn't taken into account here is all the money they made off of marketing before they even got to the theater. Okay? So we saw many, many months of it constantly being put off because of the coof, right? But there was constant sales of toys. You know, Hasbro with their Neutrona wand, and then the HasLab for the Proton Pack, the release of all the toys, you know, all the re-release of the real Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters style figures using the actual movie characters. Mm. I mean, there's been a lot of money being made on Ghostbusters this past year and a half. It's been crazy. I wish we could see those numbers. I'll bet you those numbers, those marketing dollars outstrip what they've made just at the theater. You know, plus, as you point out, the DVDs and HDs and Blu-rays are coming out.
Yeah.
They have broken records with pre-sales on those and have had to go into, you know, a new batch of them. So that's huge sales. And yes, it does mean we're getting a sequel, guys. I'm calling it right now. There's been mumblings and grumblings behind the scenes and speculation. You better damn well believe it's happening. They've made too much money for them to not. And what hasn't been said here is, yes, they haven't quite made as much internationally as 2016, but there are still some markets that haven't opened up overseas yet. This hasn't been released everywhere yet. So it's still making money overseas. Let's watch what happens.
You know, speaking about sequel, the article does go on to speculate about that too. I'm going to go and read from that as well. Because it says Ghostbusters Afterlife sets up a sequel, but will we ever get it? Now, there were some things that happened. It says here, the post-credit scene of Ghostbusters Afterlife does all that it can to set up a sequel, with Ernie Hudson's Winston Zedmore purchasing the old firehouse and returning there with Ecto-1 in tow, stating that he will always be a Ghostbusters, which down in the basement, the containment unit flashes ominously. The question is, given the age of the original stars and the time it would take to write and set up a new movie, how likely is it that we will see the return of Hudson and company again? Director Jason Reitman has made it clear he would love to continue the franchise, having taken over directing duties from his father, Ivan Reitman, who was responsible for the first two movies and acted as producer on Ghostbusters Afterlife. And Ernie Hudson has expressed his interest in returning again in a mentor role for a new generation of Ghostbusters. Hopefully, they both get what they want, as Ghostbusters Afterlife has proven that even after 3 decades, there are still a lot of people out there who just want to see more from the world of Ghostbusters. So, yeah. I think we're going to get a sequel.
And I think you could definitely get Ernie Hudson back, and his character has definitely been set up to be in a role going forward. I think you could probably get Dan Aykroyd again too. He might have a smaller role, a somewhat advisory. He's focusing on his bookstore now, but he's got access to Tobin's Spirit Guide and all that information. He's the go-to guy. He'd be like the the librarian that you go to get some information before you go out and fight the bad guys, right? And if Bill Murray, who you can probably not count on to get back, his character is not so integral that you have to bring him back. If it's like he's retired from ghost busting, that's fine. You
could just have him in a 5-minute scene of like, oh, here should be your ad campaign for your. Or doing a commercial. You wouldn't even have to have him in it.
Oh, that would be nice if they could, but if not, they could just they don't even have to have him physically in it and just say, we got a suggestion from Venkman about what to put in the commercial or something like that.
So I don't know. I'm thinking I'm keeping my fingers crossed on the future of Ghostbusters. I think it's off to a great start, and I hope to see more from it. But we'll see. It's a good answer,
it's
right?
doing well. It's doing well. This is another example of a victory. Yeah.
Yeah. This was one of the biggest victories of last year, I think.
I would say you're right.
Just
you're
give me a movie that I want to see, and don't preach at me. Because you aren't in the business of being able to preach to anybody.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Apple TV lands Godzilla and Titan series based on Legendary's MonsterVerse. Okay, so this is basically the Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong universe. Yep. And I found it interesting. Oh, Horizon Talker's heading out. Okay, folks, bedtimes are on me. Time for me to sign out. Catch up with the rest on replay. Okay, well,
sounds great. Later. Make sure you leave us a comment when you get back here. Let us know your thoughts on what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Godzilla. Now, what I found most interesting about this when I first saw this headline, this show is not going to HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back to when Legendary was kind of voiced some displeasure over the whole day and date.
Yep.
Release. They were not happy about that.
Nope. Absolutely right.
They weren't happy about Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong going straight to HBO Max because they're like, that we were kind of partnered with you. You should have consulted us. This was sort of we partnered with you. I guess would be like, I think at one point Blade Runner 2049 was put out by both Columbia TriStar and Sony and Warner Bros. At the same time. So it's
and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see similar things coming out of. Was it Legendary with Dune and stuff like that? I think that there's a lot of people that made decisions about going directly to stream that a lot of companies are not happy about. So I think we're going to see the repercussions of those in the next wave of productions that we're going to start seeing. And here's one right here. I think you're spot on with that, Boomer.
Yep. In a massive deal that expands on Legendary's MonsterVerse, Apple TV Plus has ordered a new live-action series featuring Godzilla and the Titans. Following the thunderous battle between Godzilla and the Titans that leveled San Francisco and the shocking new reality that monsters are real, the Untitled series explores one family's journey to uncover its buried secrets and a legacy linking them to the secret organization known as Monarch. The series will be produced by Legendary Television and executive produced by co-creators Chris Black, who will also serve as showrunner, and Matt Fraction alongside Safe House Pictures, Joby Harold, and Tori Tunnel of Toho Company Limited. Hiro Matsuoka and Takamasa Arita will executive produce from Toho. Toho is the owner of the Godzilla character and has licensed the rights to Legendary for this series as a natural byproduct of their long-term relationship with the film franchise. Talks about expanding the universe via a series began after Godzilla vs. Kong became one of the first big box office hits in the pandemic era. Legendary already is developing the next Untitled film set in the MonsterVerse, but we saw potential in developing a series and began talking to buyers that were interested. Apple showed immediate interest as it looks to add more branded intellectual property to a slate of original TV series that continues to grow, and the deal will soon struck to start development on the series. beginning in 2014 with Godzilla and continuing with 2017's Kong Skull Island. 2019's Godzilla King of Monsters and 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong Monsterverse films have accumulated nearly $2 billion at the global box office and is expanding with a new anime series, Skull Island. The series will premiere globally on Apple TV Plus, alongside an expanding offering of sweeping world-building dramas, including the upcoming Bull, based on Hugh Howley's New York Times best-selling trilogy of the same name. Foundation, based on the novels by Isaac Asimov, and created by David S. Goyer. Invasion, a new sci-fi drama series from Simon Kinberg and David Weil, and post-apocalyptic series C, starring Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, and Alfred Woodard. Okay. You know what I found interesting? Remember when Kong Skull Island came out, and a number of people were unawares that this was even related to the prior Godzilla movie that Warner Brothers had released?
Yeah.
Some were thinking it was related to the Peter Jackson movie that had come out years back.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Warner Brothers screwed up the marketing for that movie.
Probably.
Because I think if people had known that this was going to be a shared universe of monsters with Godzilla and Kong eventually meeting each other, that might have even been more of a pull to go see Godzilla's King Kong
but
when it came out.
I would make this statement, though. I would say they were trying to play both sides of the fence there. Right. They wanted to draw a little bit from the Peter Jackson hype, but they also, wanted the MonsterVerse people as well. They didn't want to specify. They wanted to appeal to as many as possible, which I think is pretty smart. I think they could have done it a little bit better, though. But if you look at the actual content of Skull Island, it certainly makes references to both the original Kong and possibly, some other things that certainly imply that it could fit into that universe as well.
Hunter Dread has a question. Did you say Matt Fraction, the comic book writer and husband of Kelly, Don't Buy My Book, Pseudoconic? I'm sure there are plenty of other Matt Fractions in the world, and one of them just happens to work for the in the entertainment industry along with the comic book. It may be the same gentleman, so that maybe that's not a great sign. We'll see. You can't help who you're married to, or maybe you can.
Well, yeah, you can. You certainly have to make that decision before you marry them. But since divorce is a thing too, you can also keep that in mind as well.
In Hollywood, it can be in California, that can be a nasty situation for you too. Anyways.
Well, yeah, no, you're right about that.
So we'll see. We'll see if it's going to be any good. Like I said, David S. Goyer, I've had issues with him, but I did like what he did with Foundation. But we'll see how that goes in future seasons. I'm sure anything can jump the shark, but I've seen.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and go to our next article here.
Go for it.
Speaking of streaming series that are much anticipated, Ms. Marvel director confirms reshoots currently underway. Of course, you saw this as sort of a positive sign. I remember we were talking about this the other day. So this could be that, the people behind it, they just want to make something good, and they don't want to maybe they don't want to make the crap series that they were dealing with. Hold on a second. Give me 1 minute. Sorry about this. Apparently, I pasted notes from the other article in here, but... Okay, Ms. Marvel's director has confirmed that reshoots are currently underway. Some new photos. Charmine Obaid-Chinoy uploaded to social media show off some of the sights and sounds of this production. Recently, reports abounded of how Marvel Studios was tweaking the show before its big debut this year. Filming was largely believed to be completed in 2021 until that little nugget got out. Lizzie Hill of My Cosmic Circus said that they were pretty substantial, but that notion was rebuffed. As it stands now, Instagram stories posts are we have to go on. Fine-tuning this property is a big priority for Marvel Studios, as Ms. Marvel is one of their most popular young characters. She's got to be right before a big screen debut in the Marvels next year. However, this is a sign that things are moving along ahead of Disney Plus's 2022 release. Everyone is feeling the pressure. That would include the series stars Aman Vellani. She talked to the Hollywood Reporter on the red carpet of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. In the conversation, she spoke on the weight of expectations, but she feels like they're doing right by Kamala Khan with their work for Disney Plus. Okay, and now I can go back to my notes. All right, hold on a second here. The fact that the show is being made and they're including this character in the MCU, what's important, Vellani said, I don't really have to go out of my way and talk about being Muslim and being Pakistani. It all comes out in the show. People seeing a person like me involved in a project as big as this, I think inspiring enough. Marvel revealed an official synopsis for the Disney Plus show recently. I can read it if you'd like, if you're chomping at the bit to say something. Go right ahead.
No. I want to save what I'm saying until you're done.
Okay. Ms. Marvel introduces Kamala Khan, a 16-year-old Pakistani American from Jersey City, an aspiring artist, an avid gamer, and a voracious fan fiction scribe. She is a huge fan of the Avengers and one in particular, Captain Marvel, but Kamala has always struggled to find her place in the world that is, until she gets superpowers like the heroes she's always looked up to. Aman Vellani stars as Kamala Khan, aka Ms. Marvel. The series is directed by the executive producers Adil El Arbi and Bijal Falah. Mir Minyan and Sharmian Obaid Shini, with executive producer Bisha K. Ali serving as lead writer. Ms. Marvel is set to debut on Disney Plus sometime this year. You can stream Captain Marvel on the service right now. I won't be doing that. What are your thoughts?
So, I don't know anything about this Charmine, whatever her name is. But apparently Kamran Pasha does. Okay. She is Pakistani, just like Kamran Pasha. And this is what Kamran Pasha had to say. Interestingly, the filmmaker, Charmine, I don't want to ruin her name, has no experience in directing drama, much less episodic television. She is a Pakistani documentary filmmaker who has won multiple awards, including Oscars, for her productions that paint Pakistani culture in a violent and negative light. As a Pakistani, I am not a fan of Ms. I'm going to give it a try, Obid Chinoy.
Right.
And the damage she has done to my culture's image in the eyes of the world. And I am not alone in my assessment among other Pakistanis. The only reason she was selected to direct episodes of Ms. Marvel is her shared ethnicity with the Pakistani heroine, and not surprisingly, with her zero experience as a television director or even as a dramatic filmmaker altogether, her episodes are being heavily reshot. Meaning that Marvel has thrown away millions of dollars just to virtue signal and has damaged its own project creatively in the process. Wow. I hope that this lesson will lead to Marvel hiring experienced and competent directors rather than people who fit an identity image for a press release. So I just wanted to share that as a little bit of context that I don't think you're going to get from the legacy media.
Hasn't this been the Marvel television series problem all along, though?
Absolutely. And I think
they're hiring the wrong people to make these things, and they're just trying to check all boxes.
It's exactly that woke over what works mentality that has hurt them so badly, and that I see greatly turning around under the new administration of Disney. I think we're going to see a lot more of this going forward.
Hire Cameron Pasha. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more from him. I know he's working on something that he can't talk about yet, and I'm really looking forward to that announcement.
Too bad Captain Marvel is not a fan of classic stars like Shirley. Yeah, what happened with that? What did Brie Larson say something about Shirley Temple recently? Was she throwing shade?
She posted a picture of herself with curls as a younger girl. And I think she said something like, Shirley Temple has nothing on me. And I'm like, oh, girl. Oh, sweetie. You know?
Shirley Temple had accomplished more at the age of 5.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go ahead and I don't know, so we'll see. I think some heads need to start rolling over at Disney, but we have to have some patience, right? Now that everything happens at once, right?
Yep. Absolutely right.
Peacock. Excited
Yes.
about Peacock? Peacock, baby. Oh, Peacock just has 9 million paid subscribers. I think my sister may be one of them. I have checked out the Peacock streaming service. It might be my least used streaming service in the house, but I don't know why she's currently on it. Maybe there's something she watches on it. But Peacock, they had a Dan Brown series on there. You know, the Da Vinci Code.
Yep.
Guy. They adapted one of the novels, the Robert Landon novels, and apparently it didn't even get greenlit for a season 2, so they're not going to continue with that.
Yeah, I heard some very, very negative things about it.
It kind of petered out at the end. It kind of felt like one of these shows. Like, again, some of the problems you've said about other streaming service shows where it could have been half the length.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I argued at the time this probably would have made a better movie than an actual series. We could have just, instead of stretching it out for as long as they did, just, I don't know. I mean, I figured if it was based on a novel, they might make it a series out of it, but no, it just got a little tired after a while. But Peacock has over 9 million paid subscribers. Comcast chairman and CEO Brian L. Robertson revealed on Thursday the streaming service is making a little less than $10 monthly per paid subscriber, including advertising. He added, "We'll save you the math. That's $90 million per month in Peacock subscription advertising revenue." Most Peacock users have opted for the $4.99 ad-supported option over the $9.99 ad-free option, Peacock Plus, Robert said. With these 24.5 MAAs, monthly active accounts are over 9 million paid subscribers, approaching $10 in paid average revenue per unit, which includes the advertising, and that is without much focus on paid subscriber growth. Roberts said during a conference call following the release of Comcast Quarter 4 earnings, "We have another 7 million highly engaged bundle subscribers from Xfinity and other top distributors who use Peacock every single month and currently receive Peacock Premium at no extra cost." So that's 9 million paid, 7 million who don't have to pay for the mid-level option, and 24.5 million monthly active accounts. There is also a free tier. We don't currently have an update on which the company has previously referred to as total sign-up, which could be as much as a large number. Do any of you know what Peacock is? What company that is?
Isn't that NBC's streaming service?
NBC Universal, yes.
Yeah.
So, Comcast CFO Mike Cavanaugh said on the call that the company will double its Peacock content spend for Peacock in 2022 to $3 billion. He sees the annual spend rising to $5 billion over the next couple of years. Yeah, could you put some stuff on there to watch? That might be nice.
Right.
Unfortunately, he has also predicted a $2.5 billion earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization loss for Peacock this year. In 2021, Peacock lost $1.7 billion. Prior to the last update we got when Peacock reached 54 million signups by July 29, 2021, which was the day Comcast reported its second quarter financial results. At that time, Comcast also said the streaming platform boasted 20 million monthly active accounts. Conveniently, NBCU's Tokyo Olympics opening ceremony took place on July 23rd, meant we were nearly midway through the games at the time of the that update. Wow.
Yeah.
All the events were carried on Peacock, which certainly led to a surge in signups. The Tokyo Olympics began more than 3 weeks after quarter 2 ended. Therefore, the lion's share of that Olympic signup surge likely took place in early quarter 3, but before the second quarter's earning call. So I guess a lot of people were getting on there to check out all the Olympic stuff they missed. But
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I one thing that I
can I read the last line? Sorry.
Yeah.
Comcast had previously projected Peacock would have up to 35 million subscribers by the end of 2024.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm probably not well versed enough to speak about, so I'm actually going to make a recommendation. Check out Valiant Renegade's most recent video. I just dropped a link where he's talking about primarily he's talking about reporting from Nielsen versus Samba TV that looks at streaming volumes and, trying to look at the numbers for how streaming services are doing is very different and kind of in its infancy. Nielsen rating used to be a lot easier when it was just TVs, but now we have to look at TVs and mobile devices and computers and, satellite services and, all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot more to take into account, and nobody's really getting the numbers quite right. And he does a great job of breaking down how they're trying to, but how right now it's very difficult to get a clear impression. But one thing that is very clear is that everything that all of us have been saying for a very long time is coming to pass. There are not as many people out there subscribing as, these companies had hoped, and people cannot afford to subscribe to all the different services. They can afford one or two. And if you're not in a position to be that one or two, you're kind of out of luck. So people need to really start, these companies need to really start rethinking their business models. And a company like Peacock, who has 9 million subscribers, is not going to continue to be able to remain viable. That is not a good number for a service like this. When you compare it to, we were just talking about Netflix last week. Netflix takes a little dip and everyone thinks, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. Netflix is fine. Netflix is leading the streaming market. They take a little dip. All that really tells you is the bubble is about to burst. Netflix is going to ride the crest just fine, but companies like Peacock are going to have to either start combining with other networks or go bust.
I wonder what Apple's play in all this is. I guess they just have the funding that they can just keep propping up Apple TV Plus regardless, because they make so much money off the iPhones and whatnot, and maybe they want to stay in the game for as long as possible. I don't know.
That may prop them up for a while, but the question is going to be, is that really sustainable? And eventually Apple's shareholders are going to start saying, yeah, we could keep doing this, but why are we doing that? Is this financially sound? Is this a good investment? We keep pouring good money after bad. Are we going to start seeing returns on that? If not, let's change tactics.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. They have original Peanuts content on there. Did you know that they made a New Year's Day special?
Yeah, you had mentioned that. Yeah.
Yes, that was kind of interesting. Masters of the Universe live action movie.
Oh, I heard about this and I just was like, oh my God, seriously?
Now,
seriously?
As long as Kevin Smith isn't involved, maybe we can at least read the article and judge.
You can, but it doesn't make it much better.
This movie has been in development hell, basically.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
You would think that when you're dealing with a franchise of any kind, you try to learn from the mistakes of the past. The people that have gone before you and screwed things up, don't do the same thing they did. But apparently that's not what these guys are doing. Go ahead, read the article.
Let's go ahead and read it. Mattel's live-action Masters of the Universe film, based on its iconic 1980s muscular action figure toy line, is determined to live on. After being in development at Sony for quite some years, the feature project is now moving over to Netflix for a summer start. Mm-hmm. There was buzz about this some time ago, but Sony would not confirm them. The rumor now is a reality. Sony, meanwhile, will keep rights to the film in China. Adam and Aaron Nee, The Lost City, remain attached to direct with a screenplay they wrote with David Callahan, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Wonder Woman 1984. That's a bit of a resume there. Kyle Allen, who plays one of the Jets in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, will star as Prince Adam / He-Man. In Masters of the Universe, an orphan named Adam discovers he is a prince destined to be the savior of a faraway land and must quickly learn of his power and the importance of saving his true home from an evil force. Here's the quote: "Masters of the Universe is an iconic property that shaped the imaginations of an entire generation of kids with the message of becoming the best version of yourself," said Robbie Brenner, executive producer at Mattel Films. "With our partners at Netflix, we look forward to showing audiences that anything can happen in Eternia. We are continuing to unlock this global franchise in new ways, and we can't wait to see Kyle battle it out with Skeletor in this epic live-action saga."
Yep.
Was there more? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah.
My personal thing on this is going to be another live action He-Man that's going to be taking place mostly on Earth. Did they learn nothing from the Dolph Lundgren version of the live action?
I'll be honest with you. That's probably what they're looking for as the source material.
That is the wrong source material to look at. It really, really is. That's like wanting to do a Star Wars movie and using Spaceballs as your source material. I mean, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. They have the lore completely bass-ackwards. There is nothing about this that I'm hearing.
Would it be neat if Prince Adam was like in a trailer park and he's really good at a video game, like a He-Man video game or something? I'm thinking Last Starfighter. I'm getting Last Starfighter vibes from this now.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I kind of had that same thought, and it's just, yeah, this is not going to go well. This is the hits just keep on coming for He-Man, and I think that if I was what is it, Mattel that owns the rights? If I was them, I'd be like, you know what, we got to just stop this shit. You know, I mean, we need to rethink how we're going about this.
Did you know what happened years ago? Remember how they had the Barbie movie with Amy Schumer, I guess, as Barbie in the movie? Remember that project that never got off the ground?
Yes.
Did you hear about this?
Yes.
They originally wanted to have like He-Man be in that movie or do like a crossover with this He-Man movie that the current director or producer was working on. And he put his foot down and said, no, I kind of want to maybe turn He-Man into a thing, like maybe make it a good movie franchise. Yeah. He probably left it, though, a while ago. But at the point, I think he saw, well, you could probably make something good out of He-Man. But I doubt that man that whoever that was. Is
the only argument you could make for a He-Man Barbie kind of thing is the fact that they're both Mattel toys, so you want to imagine that they're in the same shared universe. That does not mean they should ever cross over ever.
Well, plus the problem is obviously with the Amy Schumer, and it was going to be like a spoof of Barbie, like probably going to be making a joke out of it. So then, of course, you'd make a joke out of He-Man in this movie too, and the director wasn't too keen on that. But
yeah. Well, and there's a reason it never actually came to fruition, right? I mean, you know, no Barbie movie that I ever heard of. So, but I mean, honestly, if there was a good writer put behind it, I could see a good Barbie film made. I really could. I mean, there's plenty of story to draw on there. Just like I could see a G.I. Joe story made based on Joe Colton, you know? But I mean, you take it seriously. You go the whole, Richard Donner verisimilitude concept, right? And if you're going to do that, you got to do the same thing with He-Man. And then if you later on want to do some sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of crossover, you could do it. He-Man comes to Earth, meets up with Barbie, and you just, I don't know, set it at Christmas time. I mean, I could see something humorous, but you've got to have that solid base before you go doing something.
Now it's turning into like the Marvel series, where it starts out kind of serious, and then you have Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's turning into that. That's what that's reminding me of. But yeah,
and the reason I say that is because you have that precedent from He-Man, where you had the special where he comes to Earth, right? That's fine for a one-time tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. And then you have established that Barbie and He-Man exist in the same universe, just very different planets,
Yeah. Okay, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on this He-Man project that doesn't seem to want to die.
Yeah, well, let them make it. Let them waste their money. Let it crash and burn, and maybe eventually they'll learn their lesson.
It's really the live-action Cowboy Bebop where it felt like they kept, like they
Yep.
had, they're gonna execute Cowboy Bebop in front of everybody in the tower, and they pull it back. And I kept waiting for that day to come, and it finally did last fall. And it seems like they're doing the same thing with He-Man. Of course, they sort of already did with the cartoon series.
Yep.
Which was not well received on its second.
It's album. Like, that one was a 1-2 punch because there was season 1, then there was season 2. Now you're going to give us this movie, and it's like, how much more can you really crap all over He-Man?
Yeah, if you think about it too, with certain franchises, they have to prove their worth first.
Yep.
You and I knew who Iron Man was from comic book books and other
right.
things, but the mainstream audience didn't know who Iron Man was.
True.
And they had to build on that character and explain to you this is why you want to see these movies. And they kind of need to take that approach from He-Man. It's really just like the Gen Xers that have heard of him, really. I mean, I'm sure he had a following on some millennials, but it was really a Gen X thing, and it kind of faded away. I mean, I know they had done a reboot series in the early 2000s, but you kind of needed to sell people on this. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have our 3 celebrity stories.
Yeah.
Now, typically I don't talk too much about Bill Maher in here, but he's been interesting the past week because it was about a week ago. I think on his last real time, he was basically getting tired of all of these pandemic restrictions and the culture, and he's like, "Can we just stop it already?
Yeah,
stop with the mask wearing, stop with all this. Can life get back to normal?" And he got a lot of flack from other leftists in the mainstream media, like Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg. Remember, they were kind of tearing him apart, and CNN had doctors on complaining about the guests they had on the show, and just it's the whole thing. I know you're very very strongly have strong feelings on this whole thing as well, but he addressed this past week, and I think it's kind of an interesting contrast to the next guy we'll talk about, and then maybe we'll finish up with the lovely Evangeline Lilly at the end. But Bill Maher saved his best for last on his Friday night real time on HBO after a bland discussions on civil liberties, COVID, pandemic rules, affirmative action, and whether actual partisan combat may be brewing. He turned his guns to an unexpected target, the leftist progressives whose crazy demands have turned real life into comedy gold. Let's get this straight, Maher said. It's not me who's changed, it's the left. A large contingent has gone mental, and I'm willing to call them out. Maher contended that it was not his fault that the party of FDR and JFK has now turned into LOL and WTF moments, where Congress people talk of canceling rent mortgages and canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss and making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, among other sins. You have to inject yourself into everything, Maher lamented, of hyper-liberal woke. This is why so many were triggered by the pandemic policies. They were already sick of rules. He claimed that the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. The Democrats are becoming a parody of self, making rules to make rules, making sure everything bad never happens again. That you can never really do, he said. It just makes everything a drag. So, I'm starting to wonder if the tent on that side keeps getting smaller and people keep getting pushed out of it.
I've said it for weeks now, and there have been other commenters have been saying it a lot longer than I have, that this radicalism, this leftist, insanity is pushing classical liberals farther and farther right. At least that's not really true. They're still staying with the beliefs they've always had.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just making them. It's just making the scale go so far to the left that on the greater scale it moves them farther to the right. And classical liberals, conservatives have way more in common with classical liberals than I think most people realize. We use that term liberal in a very strange way. It doesn't mean what you think it means.
It's more like libertarian, right? That's
yes. Usually it does. It's and if you have a reasonable argument with somebody you think you disagree with, and you find what your common ground is, oftentimes you will find you agree on far more than you think. And then you realize that the things you disagree on, either there's wiggle room there and you can convince the other person, or you can be okay with disagreeing because it's not really that important. Here's what I mean. If I, as a conservative libertarian, talk to a classical liberal, okay, I will say, well, look, I may not agree on your particular liberal point of view, but don't you agree that the government should not be enforcing that? That you should have the freedom to believe that, and I should have the freedom to believe that, and you live your life your way, and I live my life my way, and that's perfectly fine. You will find they will say, oh yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Mm-hmm. And if the government forces one view or the other, that's authoritarianism. Yes. And that's conservative. No, that's not. That's fascism. Oh, and you get some kind of agreement. And then they look to their left at the socialists, that are pushing fascism and go, oh, it's not you, it's them. And that's what I see a lot of classical liberals doing right now.
Yeah, and of course Bill Maher is he's no conservative, but he supports a lot of progressive things, but he's just gotten sick of it. He's like, you're going, like, he made a joke on the last thing, like he had to build a shed, and it says there's a warning from California, warning, this thing has wood particles and they've been known to cause cancer, and he's like, yes, because people are snorting the wood.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, he's gotten sick of it, and he was, I don't know. We'll see what happens over the next few months. The year is still early yet. But now we're moving on to other people. Now, Bill Maher Bill Maher made a point, though. He said, I made an oath to comedy. That's what I made an oath to. And if it's the left getting out of control and being made fun of, that's where he's going to go.
Yeah.
All right. Any John Leguizamo fans here?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. The Mandalorian actor John Leguizamo admits his embrace of identity politics lost him half his fans. Also claimed he stayed out of the sun to stay, quote-unquote, light-skinned in order to get work in Hollywood.
I want to comment on something that's right here in the title. You brought this up to me. You were like, wait, he was in The Mandalorian? What did he play in The Mandalorian? And I had to send you a picture of the character he plays. He basically just is the voice actor for a, Cyclopsian type alien that the Mandalorian interacts with in like the first episode. And nobody knew it was John Leguizamo. Most people don't even realize, right? But the fact that they have to say the Mandalorian actor, because it's the only thing he's got to lay claim to fame to. What else are they going to say? What if you're going to try to get people to know who the heck you're talking about when you say John Leguizamo? What are you going to refer to? Mario Brothers? I mean, Tu Wong Fu?
Well, here's the deal, though. I was looking at his IMDb credits. He's had steady credits. I'm not going to say he's had a career like Robert Downey Jr. or Tom Cruise.
He was excellent in Tu Wong Fu, but who remembers him from that?
Yeah, well, it's been a while. I remember him from George Romero's Land of the Dead, who in some ways played kind of a bitter guy who was angry about not moving up in the ranks, and he was a villain in that movie, and it's sort of weird.
Playing out in real life, right?
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm seeing here. Auditor Dread, no to Leguizamo, and I say that as a Latino. Okay, so here's what he had to say.
Auditor Dread, I didn't know you were Latino. Awesome. I hope you follow Paulie over on Latino Slant.
Yes.
Actually, I probably have said that to you a number of times because I just kind of forget people. I'm not so focused on racial backgrounds.
That's one of the great things about the internet. We're all anonymous and nobody knows. Nobody can see who each other are. We're just sharing ideas. The Mandalorian.
None of you all know what he looks like. What Agent Boomer looks like.
I have the red hair. Trust me, we're not represented on screen that much either. Especially these days. Okay, the Mandalorian actor John Leguizamo, who played Gor Koresh, recently claimed he lost half his fans due to his embrace of identity politics, and that he stayed out of the sun in order to stay light-skinned, so he wouldn't get work out. So we'd get work in Hollywood. Leguizamo made the claims in an interview with Nick Barilli of the Oscars Scene program, where he also detailed that he wasn't getting the same opportunities as his white peers when he was a student at New York University. I actually did watch this interview, and this article it's almost like a transcription, so I'm not going to be able to read everything here. But he was complaining, here I am, an NYU student, an A student. I had fixed my accent a lot by this point, and all the white kids in my class were going to 5 auditions a day. I was going to one every 5 months, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm working as hard as they are. I got better grades, the Encanto voice actor stated. And then I realized, oh my God, I don't have the same opportunities as they have. And I realized that it wasn't an equal playing field. It just was never going to be, and it disillusions you. Okay. For a young man, you realize, oh my God, life is not fair just because of how I look, how I sound, my economic class that I come from. It's just not a fair playing field. No matter how talented you are, it doesn't matter. But I thought talent was the great equalizer, he added. I do find it interesting he did bring up at least economic class here, because I think that could be a factor as well. So the audition I would go to every 5 months was always for a drug dealer, murderer, killer, or somebody, your gardener, or somebody servicing your house, he stated. Leguizamo would then go on to refer to Hollywood as Hollywouldn't, as he was landing the roles he wanted. So it wasn't landing the roles he wanted, so he decided to turn to performance art and off-Broadway. The actor would then take issue with the amount of Latinos in Hollywood, he stated, because, look, right now the census came out, the 2020 census, and said we're almost 20% of the population, and then a couple years ago we were only 3% of the faces in front of the camera, less than 1% of the stories, less than 1% of the crew, less than 1% of the executives. That's cultural apartheid. So, you see, he didn't hold... Yeah.
That's a little bit loaded term, but go on.
Yeah, that makes you think of stuff that happened in other countries. But he didn't hold this criticism to Hollywood, saying, and the same thing goes for politics. 1% of elected officials, and forget about publication. Latin children are least seen in children's books. So right then, your self-esteem as a child is already being challenged. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of diverse picture books in the library system these days.
I would also argue, number one, children of that age usually are not basing their self-esteem on things like race. They tend to be pretty racially blind.
Yeah.
And as far as self-esteem goes, self-esteem is something for older people that see themselves as a person among many people, whereas as a child all you see is yourself and the world revolves around you. Although I realize that's probably exactly how John Leguizamo sees the world, so I retract that.
Yeah. So from there, Leguizamo states, so not only are we invisible, but we were seeing it as a negative portrayal. He went on to ask, how do you create a Latin star in America when the roles are one-dimensional and not worthy of awards? I don't know what he's talking about here. I am going to say...
Actually, you know what? Bring up Auditor Dredd's comment. Yeah. Because it speaks exactly to what you're starting to say here.
I'm confused by Leguizamo's statement. Banderas, Trejo, Bardem, Hayek, Cruz, Lopez, etc. are slightly darker than him and got work no problem. Yeah,
and here's the other thing too. A lot of people are pointing out just the fact that we know your name and you've been in so many things and you are successful. Sorry, pal. Kind of having a hard time seeing your problem. Yes, maybe you are having a harder time. Maybe maybe one could even argue that Latin individuals in general are at a disadvantage. You could make that argument, and I could agree with you on that. My thing is, you're still a success.
Yes. You know who I'm thinking of too? Benicio del Toro. He was in Now, I'll admit, I think the whole thing, Oscars so white, which, of course, that was a rather loaded
Yeah.
term, but I did remember that year, I believe Sicario had come out, which was done by the great Denis Villeneuve, the guy that did Dune.
Yeah.
And I loved that movie, and Benicio del Toro was fantastic in it. I did think he should have gotten at least an Oscar nomination for Best Actor.
Now, that's a whole other thing, because honestly, with all the other problems that the awards shows are having, they definitely do have a race problem. That's an entirely separate thing.
That's the Academy. And on some level, I did kind of understand that, especially when you have years where there actually were some great performances by diverse candidates.
But then you start looking at things like the whole thing with Kathleen Kennedy and Book of Blood and Bone, and we want to focus on this, young adult book about a character of color, but we're not going to let the woman of color who wrote the book do the script, and we're going to drag our feet on it, and we don't really want to do it. We just want a virtue signal.
Oh, interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that
in
a future stream.
Sure.
But anyway, let's see. The ugly question is, why are Latin people not succeeding? And of course, we already brought this, not hardworking enough.
Yeah, and this is another thing, too. A lot of these people that shoot off their mouth like this are all, well, it's my people that are struggling. No, it's just you. And it's not because you're Latin. It's because you're an asshole.
This is interesting. It says the Dora the Explorer voice actor continued. I mean, there are things improving, and I think COVID made us, well, I said the word I shouldn't say, look at ourselves in America. I think Black Lives Matter was a huge awakening for America and a reboot for America to look at themselves and see what's going on. So, yeah, he's drunk deep with this Kool-Aid. But he mentions Dora the Explorer, and he was mentioning about kids, like Latin kids not having figures. I mean, Dora the Explorer is one of those popular children's characters around, right?
Well, and he does this a lot, where he'll say one thing and then he'll completely contradict it with something else, right? I don't get enough opportunities, and then I look at your IMDb, and then later on he'll say, and I've been very blessed, and I feel I have a duty to. Well, if you're blessed, then what are you bitching about?
And I'm going to say this. He goes on to say. He mentions that, there are improvements happening incrementally. And, yeah, I would... Hold on, where is that? Let me get down. There's a lot here. I don't want to spend forever on this, but... He would later... he says later he would add, tokenism is real glass ceilings and real colorblind casting was promised to me by all the artists in the 70s. We were going to break that down. And then it wasn't until Hamilton 2000, something that they finally did. It succeeded. It showed that it does work.
Oh yeah, that's a brilliant example of swapping real world historical figures, race swapping them. Yeah, that's just what you want to do exactly.
Yeah, but he was saying like the stuff was happening incrementally, so now it's like 5%, and I'm saying, oh yeah, here it is.
And you brought up Benicio del Toro. I'm going to point out.
Here we are.
Guillermo del Toro. For crying out loud, why don't you go out there and make some movies? And start making roles for, Latinos and Latinas. Tell your stories.
Zoe Saldana as well, who's a Dominican, where the majority of people are darker skinned. Leguizamo's virtue signaling here, in my opinion. The other time he was using the Latinx term. Oh, I meant to find that quote. Yeah, the Latinx term during this. He used it in this article too. And
that's the other thing. You're concerned about talking about the woke causing you to lose half your followers. Well, you're losing most of your Latin followers by calling them Latinx because you're just pissing them off. So just keep talking and keep losing fans and see if that helps your career.
And here's what I want to say about John Leguizamo. It's kind of like the whole Alec Baldwin thing. I've actually enjoyed his performances. I actually do think he's a good actor.
Yeah.
In the things I've seen him in.
I was not being ironic when I said, the guy from Mario Brothers and Tu Wong Fu, and you even heard Nanette in the background. Oh, he was great in Tu Wong Fu. Yes, he absolutely was. He's just an asshole in real life.
Oh, let me read this too. I feel like it's really important to talk about all the problems and all the difficulties, especially if you're a person of color, especially if you're Latinx. That's what he said in this article. There's a lot of people struggling, and we need to change things, he stated. And I'm not even necessarily arguing with that. Maybe there is underrepresentation. I don't know. But as Auditor Dread point out, there are we can name a few just off the top of your heads that have had success. Leguizamo went on to say, and Spike Lee showed me because he's one of the first who spoke out against Hollywood so white. Well, he was Oscars so white, but I wasn't sure. He gestures to the Oscars film crew recording the conversation. So he brought, and I'm wondering, is he gesturing to the crew because the crew shooting him was the wrong color? They were white. I don't know.
No, because because it was they were representative of the Oscars because it was.
Of course. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's what he was getting at.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, but the guy doesn't have anything to complain about. We have a Latino playing superheroes, Moon Knight, Oscar Isaac, and Gamora, Zoe Saldana, Michael Peña's Narcos. We have good representation. I mean, Dean Cain played Superman. I think he's, half Asian, I believe, right? Be wrong?
Yeah, I don't know all of his...
Not that I was ever focusing on this stuff at the time.
Yeah, you don't think about this stuff because, they did such a great job. But here's the other thing, too. A lot of the roles he played were non-Latino. He's played an Italian a lot. We kind of went through that before the stream, and it's like...
Not just Super Mario Brothers, other things too, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, you can't have it both ways, Either, shit or get off the pot, as I like to say,
Part of me almost feels like warning him too. These woke people, they're not your friends. You think they are.
Nope. And they will turn on you in a second.
They will turn on you on a dime. So, I don't know.
I think there's a lot of people that are shooting off their mouth about this woke shit that are really just killing their careers,
And John Leguizamo has had a steady career. I mean, he's not going to be getting the numbers Tom Cruise got, but many people aren't going to be getting that.
I'm seeing a lot of change in Hollywood right now. I mean, especially those of you that follow that Umbrella guy and all the stuff going on with she whose name should not be mentioned and her ex-husband, the pirate guy. Hollywood is really rethinking working with certain people for certain reasons, and I think people that cause problems for their companies are going to be looked on very unfavorably and are going to find it very difficult to get jobs going forward. Just saying. All
right. And speaking of other actors speaking out, anything I'd like to say on the Leguizamo situation? I guess we'll keep an eye on him.
Screw him, that's all.
Apparently he was in Encanto too. He's been in stuff, so I don't know.
Okay. No, but he's still gonna bitch because that's what gets him noticed, I guess.
That or it's insecurity. I don't know. Evangeline Lilly, best known for playing Kate Austen in ABC's drama series Lost, and for her role as Hope Van Dyke, Wasp, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, took to social media to confirm her attendance at a Washington, D.C. protest over the weekend in support of quote-unquote bodily sovereignty.
Good
the
girl.
Actress went on to explain that she stands in opposition to government-mandated vaccine policies. I believe nobody should ever be forced to inject their body with anything against their will under the threat of violent attack, arrest, or detention without trial, loss of employment, homelessness, starvation, loss of education, alienation from loved ones, excommunication from society under any threat whatsoever, Lilly wrote in a post published on her Instagram page. This is not the way, Lilly added, about vaccine mandates. This is not safe. This is not healthy. This is not love. I understand the world is in fear, but I don't believe that answering fear with force will fix our problems. I was pro-choice before this, and I'm pro-choice, still pro-choice today. So,
yep.
Okay. So I guess that whole the my body, my choice thing you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if it only applies to killing your baby, then you just don't really get what bodily sovereignty is about. If you don't have the right to choose what happens with your body, you have no freedom at all. Let me repeat that because it's very important. It's probably the most important thing we've said in this stream. If you don't have the right to choose what happens with your body, you don't have any freedom at all.
Mm-hmm. But great on her for standing up. And I kept thinking, is she now going to get canceled by Disney? And I'm thinking, what can they do to her? at this
Nah.
point. I'm sure she has a lot of money, both from being on Lost and also in the Hobbit movies, and also from being in the Ant-Man movies and the Avengers movies. And I'm even thinking, I think this latest Ant-Man movie she's worked on is wrapped up, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she could speak her mind. If they choose not to hire her again, well, so what? She's, and I'm thinking, what's the worst that's going to happen? She's not going to get to star in the all-female Avengers movie.
That I don't think is even going to happen.
Apparently, that other actress from Black Panther, that she was also getting into trouble for expressing similar opinions.
Well, that's the other thing too. That's what emboldens them, right? Because now you've got two of your female Avenger actresses coming out and saying, "I don't think this is such a good idea." In a time when the general consensus of the country is saying the exact same thing. Forget what you're hearing in your echo chambers on the social medias, okay? The real consensus of people is this is not right. So, as I like to say, read the room.
Yeah. So we'll see if people keep doubling down.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. Hallelujah.
And he says, preach,
Yep.
preach, water,
Yep.
Justice, preach. So what do we think, though? I'm thinking, though, the worm is turning a little bit, maybe even in Hollywood. Maybe people are finally starting to wake up and maybe think this is not the way. We need to calm down a bit. And I got to tell you, Evangeline Lilly always lights up the screen. She should be in more movies. I hear she doesn't actually I don't think she likes the Hollywood thing. I think she does it, but, to make money for opportunities, but I don't think she likes that.
You know how on Twitter, on the right-hand side, it's got what's trending? And I saw Evangeline Lilly trending, I don't remember what it summarized this whole thing, and it said, "This is not the way." The very next thing is Din Djarin. I did a clip of it, and I posted it, and I said, "I just don't believe in coincidences."
Dean Tanaka Kane is half Japanese on his father's side. He is our favorite Superman, along with Smallville and the DC animated universe Superman. No,
Yeah,
Dean
he's great.
Kane was great.
But not only that, he as a man, Dean Kane is Superman outside of the role that he plays. He really does believe what Superman stands for.
And John Snyder is John Kent, I think, too.
Oh
Snyder.
gosh, if you're not following John Snyder on YouTube, you're missing out. He's a entertainment celebrity who's really got his head on straight. He's like Evangeline Lilly, where you just realize, okay, there's some people that know how to think still.
So we'll see how things go. I like to be optimistic that maybe. I mean, I don't want to knock on wood. We'll see where we are a year from now. I'm going to be very curious.
Yeah.
And hopefully Disney will clean up its act. They do have new leaders. Let's give them a chance to see what they can do.
Yeah, and between the things I'm seeing at Disney and in the industry in general, I'm pretty optimistic that 2022 is going to really turn a lot of things around. And by the way, remember we talked about our predictions.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 more episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. Episode 7, watch for one of mine to be absolutely verified. It's going around. I don't want to spoil it right now here on your stream, but I think a lot of people that are following that news already know because it's out there. Hashtag Doomcock was right.
Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to think what it could be. Maybe Grogu will be a teenager now, right? Okay.
Actually, I really do.
Age fast. No,
I really do hope that we see if we see Grogu in Book of Boba Fett, it's going to be this very next episode, this Wednesday. But no, we're going to be seeing another scruffy-looking nerf herder, the following week.
Scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Yeah, am I being too vague?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Anyways, if you know the dialogue, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you got? I think that wraps it up for tonight.
Yep.
What do you got coming up this week? We got Tuesday.
Well,
We got
Tuesday.
Culture Fortress.
Tuesday, I mean, you guys here, you guys have already heard me talk about it. Was it last week or the week before?
Quantum Leap.
In our good old days, I talked about Quantum Leap. I'll be talking about that again for Quantum Fortress, for Culture Fortress over on Mr. Matchstick's channel. What are you going to be talking about there?
I am going to be talking about the Blizzard Arcade Collection that was released on consoles and PC back in the fall. So it's actually kind of a retro talk on retro games, but it's a new collection of them that came out, and they did a outstanding job on it, and I'm going to talk about that on Tuesday. It was also because I figured Blizzard's getting so much hate, but they actually did a really good thing in the fall with this collection. I mean, if you're into the old school games, and I'll talk a bit more about that. Wolfton will also be on with us in Culture Fortress. Go Team Ghost Planet Go, and go ahead and subscribe to his channel as well. He does weekend streams as well. I think he was doing one earlier today. Yeah.
Yep. A lot of good content there too.
Yeah. And then
Wednesday, we're hoping, crossing our fingers,
we're gonna do another rewatch of 1941. Another Slim Pickens movie to look forward to. Slim Pickens wasn't in the Swarm that much. If you guys missed out on Big Al's channel last night, we did the Swarm, and it's a classic.
It's a movie.
That
happened.
I'm mad at Birdman for crap. I'm going to give him crap.
Yeah, he should have suffered along with the rest of us.
No, you know what? Now watch it on his We're going to discuss the score, the Entrada 2-disc release. We're going to watch the movie for 2.5 hours. That's going to be... If our thing falls on an April Fool's Day, we're watching The Swarm. I'm going to tell you.
Oh, crap. Okay.
Oh, man, The Swarm. But yeah, Wednesday we're gonna try watching.
Actually, no. April 1st is a Friday, so I got to think about what I'll do for that Friday.
Yeah, the 1941 is the best Ivan Reitman movie that Steven Spielberg.
You know what?
directed.
April 1st, Friday. Maybe I'll do a rewatch of Showgirls.
Really?
Maybe.
We've been meaning to do that on Soundtrack of Birdman because Eric wanted to get on there, but apparently that one was difficult to find on streaming. That's why we never did it. I have the Blu-ray of it though. You know, I got the Blu-ray of that. That was like, I got the Blu-ray player, and I'm thinking, what's the first Blu-ray I'm going to buy? And like, you think that popped my head?
If I actually have to get this piece of crap movie just so I can do a rewatch of it, holy crap!
No, I think you can find it. It may be streaming.
The only thing that I can say about that movie is Kyle MacLachlan's in it, so at least there's that.
When are you going to do a rewatch on that one? April Fool's Day?
April Fool's Day, maybe. I'm not committing to that. I'm just saying maybe. It's a thought right now. Depends on what kind of feedback I get from people.
Yeah, the bot keeps coming back. I thought it was removed, but then I couldn't remove it, so I put the bot in a timeout. But then she popped in again. I don't know what's up with that. They're getting stronger. It's like the bees.
Well, no, it's like an Omicron variant, you know.
The Transformer known as that, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, Omicron, the Nomad.
Brought to you by HasLab.
My favorite Dreamcast game, Omicron, the Nomad Soul.
They shouldn't come back for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What?
She put them in timeout for 20 minutes.
Okay.
She's doing her best.
No, you're fine.
She's staying on them as much as possible.
I don't know. I think maybe that's why I couldn't remove them earlier. Maybe they were in a timeout. But what was I going to say though? And then Friday we have your stream.
Yeah, I haven't decided on a theme yet, just because I want to see, Book of Boba Fett, see if there's anything big that I want to talk about there.
At some point though, we got to get back to Smallville.
You're right, we do.
Actually, I'll say this. You said we're not going to do every episode. You have to do episode 4 because that's where he gets the X-ray vision.
You have a point there. Yeah, you're right.
That was one thing I did like about Smallville was the introduction of powers to his character, and the whole show would focus on him. What do I do with this power? Remember that? Remember where he got the heat vision?
The whole argument that all the Snyder bots tried to make about he's learning to be Superman. No. Smallville already covered this, and it showed him learning to deal with his superpowers. And what was it? His parents were always there giving him the wise counsel. Without saying with great power comes great responsibility. It's like, you got to be a man about this. You've got to take ownership of it. You've got to deal with it. You know, you got to respect people and so on and so forth. You learn to control it, you know, and, you know, you are how you're brought up. And
All right.
I would say the real hero of Smallville is Jonathan Kent, you know.
There was a scene when, remember, it was shortly after his character died, and they were doing this thing where people could go into the, like, I think Lana Lang was trying to see her mom, so she was doing the thing where she would get killed and then get brought back, so she'd go to the afterlife and see her mom in heaven. And so, of course, when Clark Kent does it, he sees Pa Kent, and I love what Pa Kent says this, you're a symbol of justice, you're a symbol of peace. Like, he knows what Clark is going to be now, because he's on the other side.
Because he's on the other side. You can see
I
it,
like that. And that
which,
was cool.
again, that would be considered fan service because that's something that actually happened in the comics during the death of Superman. Like, Superman, you know, died, you know, and I think that's the biggest misnomer. Because for all the deaths that happen in, you know, comics, Superman's was more closely related to a near-death experience.
Right.
Okay. And what happens is he's going on to the afterlife and he encounters Jonathan in the afterlife.
Yep.
And it's Jonathan who convinces him, you have to go back. Your job isn't done yet. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's the spiritual part of it. Then, you know, on Earth, there's a sci-fi-ish, you know, element with the Eradicator bringing his body back and, you know, uniting the two. It was a long, drawn-out story, but yeah, that story had actually already happened in the Bronze Age comics. So when it happens in Smallville, it's like, yeah, this is good stuff. We've already chewed this ground, and you know what you're doing. So, sorry, you just got me off on a tangent getting me talking about Smallville again.
No, it's fine. Well, like I said, though, we'll see what you want to do Friday. And then Saturday on Netters Network?
We will be doing a rewatch of a classic Disney film, which is one of those early combining live action and animation, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Angela Lansbury.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Which brings us around to Sunday again with
Geeky Geezers,
another,
sure.
and you know, we'll see what the week brings us as far as geeky news. I love the fact that it's a weekly news show that we do here because that gives me an opportunity to get the initial take and then, you know, the follow-ups that come throughout the week, you know.
Okay, cool. You know, I said, it will probably. There might be some interesting news coming out of Lucasfilm, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Of course, you may have said that for your Friday stream. But all right. Yep. So we'll see you all next week. Thank you for stopping by. And, you know, stay groovy.
Take care, everyone.
I don't know why I said that. That just popped out.
You need to come up with some sort of an intro and outro. You really do. The bees! Ah! No, but we got to say it in slow motion. The bees!
You know, if the Swarm remake ends up becoming a thing, that will be regular coverage on this channel.
Oh, dear God.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.